Now that we've looked at the basic geo in Nuke, let's look at working with geometry from outside of Nuke. So this could be geometry that was exported by animation, or it came from effects, any other discipline. We could actually read those files in Nuke and use them to our advantage for additional treatments. And even if we're just reference, it's great to be able to bring geometry into Nuke. So to do that, you would use a node called readGeo to read in geometry into Nuke, and simply we would just type readGeo to pull that up. And you could also access that under the 3D menu, and it's just under geometry, and you would find it under readGeo right here. But if I pop this out, it looks similar to our normal read files where it's got a path that we could browse for our geometry. So in this case, we have geometry from our 3D renders that we've been working with, such as the city and the Zilla renders. So the geometry for the Zilla character is this right here. And simply by hitting open, we get this dialog box that pops up, and this basically wants to create, it's asking us if we want us to create all these meshes in one node or if we want to create them as separate nodes. In this case, I'm just going to create all in one node because we'll have access to these regardless. So by simply doing create all in one node and viewing our geometry here, you could see this is our Zilla model. And it actually has the animation cache built into it as well too. So it's moving and it's got its animation baked into it, which is great. The readGeo itself reads any geometry such as FBX, OBJ, and ABC files, which is great. And as I was mentioning, the scene graph right here, we could actually isolate and select the geometries that within this scene graph too. So if you wanted to turn off certain pieces of geometry, we could do it over here too. So if I zoom in on our guy here, for example, we could turn off the right bones, so it's these right eyebrow horns. And if I just simply select this yellow dot next to it, oh, sorry, that was the right one right here. And we could similarly turn off this left one right here. And if I do left, you could see that geometry turn off. We could turn off teeth, lower gum, tongue, and that just turned off the gum. So depending on how dense the model is, sometimes if you're not going to be needing it for certain areas you won't be needing, it's always nice to be able to turn those off so the geometry you could work with the geometry faster. But in this case, I'll turn those back on because this is not too dense of a model for us to use. But it's nice to have access to this scene graph to be able to view and isolate certain meshes if you'd like. Back in the readGeo tab itself too, it's got the read on each frame and subframe checked on by default. So this is how we could view our animation. It has the frame range set, frame rate, and also the frame range for the animation is set in here too. So if you needed to do any tweaks in that, you could always change the frame range on that. But that's generally it. That's reading in geometry. The other thing too, if I close out of this, Nuke is also smart enough to know that if we do a normal read option, so if I hit R in our node graph to read a file, if I hit read, let's grab another geometry. Let's grab the building. And if I select this and hit open, Nuke knows and realizes based on this extension, that ABC file, that this is a 3D geometry. So it's automatically going to read it as a readGeo. So similarly here too, we have the option with the scene graph. So I'll just say create all in one node. And we could combine these using a C node as well. So we'll just plug these in together. And let's pull in one more piece of geometry that we haven't been working with yet, but we will be using in the upcoming lectures. And that will be a helicopter geometry. So let's do another readGeo. And we'll go to the file path for it. And it's this Pavehawk anim cache. And let's pull this in. And you could see this has a lot of parts in it too, but for right now, we'll just say create all in one node. And if we view this, we have a helicopter in here too. So I'm just going to plug this in with our scene as well, and we could view the three of them together. And there you have it. You have three, if we look top down, we have three assets in Nuke to work with. We have our Zillow, we have a helicopter, and we have a static placement of this building that gets destroyed.